former Orangeman of note that addresses one particular area around the game. And Matt, Syracuse winning on Monday at Louisville. The Cardinals were just 12 of 21 from the free throw line, lost by 1 at home. And free throws are big parts of close games, and many of the games that will happen in the postseason will be close. And Jim Lee is with us now. And Jim, you've got a book out we'll tell everybody about, but it's called 15 Feet for Free. And we thought we'd talk free throw shooting with you because it can have a lot to do about how far you go in the tournament.
No, it definitely does. And number one, I appreciate having me on the show. And free throws is one of the most important parts of the game.
I think it's a lost art. I love the name of the book for free. We take it for granted. Guys go up there, clank them all the time. I got to play with a guy, Stevie Thompson, who's one of the greatest athletes of all in the late 80s. Jim, and you'd see him in practice, and he would shoot 95 out of 100. You get him in a game, and all of a sudden, he tightens up. So, I'm sure you could talk a little bit about that and getting in a rhythm.
Similar to Charles Barkley then on his golf swing, huh?
Well, Jim, Stevie Thompson's a good example, a guy who did not shoot free throws well in games. Coach Boeheim said he might hit 5 of the first 10 and 88 of the next 90, right? Because he's feeling that rhythm in practice and he's not getting off the line, but it's not like that in the game.
Right. And the whole thing I'm trying to develop here is just all the good free throw shooters develop a routine or a process, every single one of them. And that's what, like say, if somebody was shooting like Stevie Thompson and he developed a routine, it might be easier, but as you both know, you're going to shoot 2 foul shots at a time max during the course of a game. So is it going to take you longer to develop that routine? You might have trouble doing it. So my whole point on this is you've got to develop a routine or a process.
Our guest is Jim Lee. He knows of what he speaks. He's third all-time in career free throw percentage at SU, 86%, just a tick under. Only Jerry McNamara has shot a better percentage for his career since Jim's time in the 70s. Brandon Trish will be right up there, likely when all is said and done. What was your routine, Jim? And I know people that are good at golf and good at free throws, a lot of it has to do with that sort of pre-shot routine.
I mean, my routine was simple. I mean, once I went to the foul line, I took 2 dribbles by my right foot, just took a little deep breath in, got my eye on the target, and then from that point on, it was bend my knees and follow through. But I shot so many foul shots before, I knew that the routine would just automatically come. So basically, when I went to the foul line, it was just, my only thought process was bend my knees and follow through. End of story.
Talk to us a little bit about the 70s. I know every era is different, but were the arenas as hostile as you see today? Were the people behind the basket, some of the distractions they do, the waves, the choreography of a Cameron? Talk to us about the 70s.
There was
throwing stuff at you.
There was smoke in the arena.
I think there was some smoke still in the arena. I mean, one of the good things is Manley Fieldhouse happened to be one of the more hostile places to play. But, people always ask me, and, just the other game, you talked about the Louisville game, and hey, do you think one of the reasons that the kids had trouble shooting is because of the whiteout? I said, well, when you're shooting the basketball, you're supposed to look at the rim. The white, nothing else should matter, so it doesn't matter what color they're wearing. I mean, you look at the rim no matter what. And that's the whole thing, as I talk about in this book, is if you can develop a routine or process and get your mindset that it's you in the basket, and then nothing else matters no matter what anybody else is doing. And that's what you've got to get to that point.
Jim Lee is our guest. His book is 15 Feet for Free. Not to cut you off, Matt, but one quick thing about this routine and process, particularly on the road, I always wondered, what do you think, Jim, as a guy who played in the 70s and as a free throw aficionado, of the modern routine now, make or miss? The guy gets off the line and it's patty cake and slap hands with this guy and pat on the back, and then he shoots his second free throw.
In my personal opinion, I didn't want anybody touching me without fouling. Because I was there for shoot 2 foul shots, and even if my teammates wanted to come to me and hit me, I didn't want them touching my hands. I knew what I had to do. You're there for one thing, just to make the foul shot. That's it. What always cracks me up watching these games with these kids now is, somebody will clang one, and their teammates go slap them 5. They go, for what? I mean, it was an awful shot. I mean, so it's like you're congratulating somebody for not doing what he's supposed to do.
They're trying to press some flesh, give him some good karma, I think. I don't know what it is, Jim. I agree. But one thing, thumb through your book, that I'm impressed with is the benchmarks. I know in the summers I try to get X amount of shots up with a Leo Routins, 200 shots, 3-pointers. But this actually benchmarks your free throws day to day, month to month.
I mean, I did it from when I was in elementary school, and maybe because I grew up in Kirkwood, New York, there was nothing to do down there. I got in the habit of going in the backyard, and I just started shooting. I said, hey, why don't I just keep track of these? And I wish that I still had these. My parents probably threw them away a long time, but I had little notebooks and just like scribbled them in. And I mean, I don't know how many times, but I'd mark down every day how many out of 100. And I wish I had it only for the fact that I would know, like, I could actually accurately say, but I've lost count of how many times that I was 100 for 100. And that would have been nice to know, but I didn't know that I was going to end up trying to do this book.
But that was a fairly routine thing for you as a kid?
I did it every day.
Wow.
And I did it every day, and that's why.
I mean, the 100 for 100 you did every day?
Not every day, but I did it a number of times.
Wow.
And most of the time, if you only do it once or twice, you can remember. I can't remember how many times I did 100 out of 100.
I'm sure you found time between the Xbox and the iPad and all those other things to find times to shoot the free throws.
I'm still trying to figure those out. I watch my kids and I can't figure that out. So I'm glad I grew up in a time where I didn't need to.
Jim Lee is our guest. His book is 15 Feet for Free. We'll tell you how we went about it in terms of putting it together and how you can get it when we come back. This is Syracuse Game Day on the Syracuse IMG Sports Network. The Orange take on Rutgers here in Piscataway. Jim's got a new book out, 15 Feet for Free. You can check it out on the web as well at 15feetforfree.com. Book's coming out in the 1st of March, Jim. But how did you go about it? Who did you talk to, aside from your own expertise as a guy that could stroke it from the line? And what did you set out to pass along to the readers?
You know, it's always been in the back of my mind, but I've never followed through with it. I've thought about it, I think back when my kids were back in junior high school, so it's probably 10 or 12 years ago. But I never thought about going forward in a serious matter. But I think what got me over the hump is once my father passed away, I started running this golf tournament to raise money for the disabled veterans. And once I started doing that, and I've been pretty successful at it, I just thought, how else can I raise some more money, which I don't need a lot of other people involved? And one of my friends just came up with the idea. It was, Jim, why don't you write that book that you were talking about? And then I thought about it, and I said, you know what? If I do this, I could donate half the proceeds to help the disabled veterans.
Right.
So just that being my guideline, that's why I move forward, because I want to be able to raise more money to help the guys get hurt in the war, similar to my father, who, as a lot of the old timers know, that my father lost both his legs in World War II. And growing up, to me, it always seemed unfair that he had to live his life without legs. And I don't know, it's just me. I know the world is not fair, and he used to say that. He goes, the world is not fair. You just have to learn to deal with it.
Jim Lee is our guest, part of the 1975 Orange Final Four team. His book is 15 Feet for Free, coming out to booksellers around in March, and you'll be able to buy it at a lot of the regular bookstores. But Author House is a website you can check it out for first, and 15feetforfree.com will tell you more about Jim and the background and how you can get the book, and they'll take you to the website. But I think the idea of the proceeds going to help the disabled veterans and the entrepreneurial boot camp that's here on campus is something that's become very popular, a great cause there, Jim.
No, and that's what this year at the golf tournament, we donated the money to the EBV program at Syracuse University. And now they have 7 other universities which are in conjunction with SU, so for a total of 8.
One of them's Connecticut, I understand, but that's
well,
all right.
You know what? It might be basketball-wise, but I think they've got UConn, Louisiana State, Purdue, UCLA. I'm probably going to forget a bunch of Florida State.
Yeah.
And
good schools. Let's finish on a couple of things here to give maybe one takeaway. What if kids want to get the book, fathers and mothers want to get it for their son that are just getting involved in basketball, and they know that being a good free throw shooter is one way to stay in the game and enjoy the game, what's one thing that you'd have them have in mind right now?
Well, the one thing I mentioned is and I end every chapter with it, is the less movement, the less room for error, which there is. I mean, the foul shot that, you see these kids nowadays, so they'll put the ball behind their back, they'll bounce it about 100 times, they're always flipping the ball in their hands, and you can see there's no routine or process that they have. And so I just try to simplify it, and it's just, I give like four steps, and just try to minimize any movement, because especially when you're just starting out, kids that don't know what they're doing, if they want the extra movement, it's too much for them to handle. Just it's like everything else in life. Make it as simple as possible, and then it's not that hard.
It's amazing. I always watch into games, and not to put down any of our players, I've been very encouraged at Deion Waiters the last 2 games. UConn and Louisville's wanted the ball late. I always talk about the Louisville game, maybe throwing the ball up in the air and exhausting the 3 or 4 seconds, but you're the type of player that I know late in the game wants the ball. What's the difference? Guys are great throughout the game. You're 80% sure to get to the last minute. Is it just the practice and the repetition and the charting of it that gives you the 90% mentality to go line on making these, or is it just, hey, it's a normal part of the game, I'm going to make them regardless?
I mean, I did notice at the end of the last 2 games, I mean, Waiters could have. I know he wanted to get fouled, but unfortunately he missed 2 in one game and 1 in the other.
Georgetown.
Which basically, once he got the ball, he could have thrown it to Brandon Trish both times. And no offense to DM, but I'd rather have Brandon at the foul line at the end of the game. One of the points I do mention is, and your mindset is, everybody's got to get in the habit of, when you're shooting a foul shot, the foul shot is 15 feet, and it is the exact same shot, no matter at the beginning of a game, in the middle of the game, at the end of the game. If you're down by 1, up by 20, down by 2, it's the exact same shot. So that's why you've got to get your mindset set and I try to get, people have got to get in the comfort zone when they're there. I mean, my comfort zone, when I was at the foul line, I'd step to the foul, I just think I was in my backyard back in Kirkwood, New York.
Hitting 100 for 100.
And the thing is, but it relaxed me, so it didn't matter what anybody, anywhere on the foul line in the stands was talking about. In my mind, I was in Kirkwood, New York, all by myself. It was me in the basket. And that's what people have to get to that point. It's you in the basket, no matter what point of the game you're at.
Is this picture for the book the one at home? Is it the old basket in front here?
Actually, the cover of the book, that is where my brother Mike and I grew up shooting. And that tells you at some point in my life, I must have known I was going to do this, because I don't know how old that picture is. And
yeah, it looks like it's on a telephone pole.
It is on a telephone pole.
It's beautiful.
That's
old school.
It's got a chain net.
Might as well have been Indiana. Yeah.
My father went and we had to have the first chain net, because my brother and I, Mike, we wrecked too many nets, and finally, and then once we got the chain net, it actually, we started wrecking balls.
Wow. All right, last minute here, I was just going to point out quickly, Brandon Triss is 11 of 12 free throw shooting in the last 5 minutes of games, 10 for 11 in the last 2 minutes of games this season, so he has been very steady late. I think listeners are probably thinking, all right, a postseason game could come down to free throws. One of the primary ball handlers is Scoop Jardine, whose free throw percentage has decreased each of his years, and right now it's 52%, which is not going to be good enough to be a point guard on maybe a championship team.
I mean, I watch the games at home, and right off the bat, every time the ball leaves Scoop Jardine's hands, goes basket, he lifts his eyes to follow the ball, which in turn lifts his head, which throws his shoulders back a little, so his body is not in complete balance. Now, and I'm sure that everybody here has already told him that, but at some point, it's almost like you got to stand there, keep your eyes on the basket, keep your eyes on the basket. If you keep your eyes on the basket, your head won't move, your shoulders won't move until the ball goes through because my whole point is, once the ball leaves your hands, there's nothing you can do about it. You cannot change its flight. You cannot do anything.
Yeah, and he's a guy who has made them in his career, and maybe will again. I know Coach Boeheim thinks if he does get 5, 6, 8 in a game, he's going to be fine, but when he's getting 2 a game, right now he's making 1 and missing 1. He's 52% for the year. Jim, thanks for coming on with us. Best of luck with the book.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Jim Lee, one of the all-time great free throw shooters and shooters in general in Syracuse basketball history, is our guest. 15 Feet for Free, the name of his new book on free throw shooting. It'll be out the first of next month.